What's up, everybody? Kevin here, and I'm going to do another breakdown of the single game Showdown format for tonight's Chiefs-Rams Fantasy Points Bonanza. And part of the reason I'm doing this, I always break down these single games with podcasts, but every once in a while I like to do it in a tutorial video format mainly because when I do one, it really works out well, and people ask for another one because they don't see it, and so I figured rather than rewatch an old one, I will just put together a new one for you guys. And the goal of this is to be not just a breakdown of tonight's Rams-Chiefs single game bonanza, but also a tutorial on how to use DFS Army tools for DFS Army VIP members to set up your lineups, because our goal has always been to teach you as a member how to make your own lineups. We are not a lineup provider, obviously. So I want to combine that with this awesome game. I'm super excited to watch it. And one of the hard parts about a Chiefs-Rams game is just so much offense going on. Where do you differentiate between these different players? And the goal here is going to be to find a little bit of insight about what's most likely to happen in this game. So a little quick breakdown. The Vegas has the Rams installed as 3-point favorites. They are at home for this game. The total right now is 63.5 points, which is crazy. That's the highest game total of any game in something like 20 years. I think one of our guys was saying, Josh was saying that the last time, 1985 was the last time we saw a game total this high, projected this high. So suffice it to say, we expect a little bit of offense to be happening for this particular matchup. Maybe a lot of offense. So how do we figure out who's who and what's what? Well, let's run through some of these numbers real quick. And just the basics are, the Chiefs are particularly bad. Both of these teams are really bad against the run. But the Chiefs are worse even than the Rams a little bit, if that's even possible. So the Chiefs are coming in at 32nd overall in DVOA. We will check the DFS Army Research Station. Here we go. And note that this is the DFS Army Single Game Research Station. If you're not familiar, familiarize yourself with it. This is what I use to break down games. And you'll note that while I said that the Rams are 29th overall in DVOA versus the run, they're only giving up the 17th most points to opposing running backs, whereas the Chiefs are giving up the 31st most points to opposing running backs. And we saw it last week, David Johnson. I want to harp on this for a second. We saw it last week, David Johnson tore up the Chiefs in a losing effort, and he put up 37 fantasy points against them. Now, if you're an opposing offensive coordinator, if you're an opposing head coach, and you got to take on the fucking Chiefs, who score at will, with Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, weapons galore, points like crazy, what would you do? Well, they bleed points to running backs, and when your running back is out on the field, who's not on the field? Pat Mahomes and the offense. So if I'm an opposing offensive coordinator, I'm going into this game going, these guys fucking bleed points to running backs. Lean on Gurley. Well, even if they didn't bleed points to running backs, I'd want to lean on Gurley, but knowing that the matchup favors him is even more exciting. So using the research station, we can vet this out. 31st in points per game to the running back position, whereas the Rams give up a little bit less. So the approach for the Rams initially going into this game should be to lean heavy on the run with Gurley. Now let's take another look in a little bit deeper, and this is the basic overall breakdown and how we're going to get started with trying to figure out who's who and what's what. All right, now let's jump over to the cornerback wide receiver chart that DFS Army provides to see if we can get any additional clarity here. So I'm going to look up the Chiefs. Let's start with them. We know the Rams have a little bit better pass defense. They're 13th overall, DVOA. Again, they have some quality corners on this Rams team. Not a lot of them, but some. We know the Chiefs are the #1 passing offense in the league, by far. So let's take a look at some of these players on the Chiefs and see who's favored what. Let's see who's favored here. We've got Hill, Conley, and we're not sure about Sammy Watkins, so we'll talk about that as well. It's not clear that Sammy Watkins is going to play tonight. I don't think he will. But what we do know is Marcus Peters, we don't have much on these other two corners right now, but we know that Marcus Peters is #not good. This is a very bad rating. A very negative. He's allowing a 133 quarterback rating to opposing quarterbacks throwing his way. That is very, very bad. That's as bad as it gets. Marcus Peters sucks. Let's get that straight. So you got Hill in a spectacular matchup against a corner that has zero chance of keeping up with him. That's all we need to know. Conley and whoever else is going to be playing here are secondary thoughts in this game. Now let's take a look at the Rams wide receivers and see if we can figure anything out about those guys. All right, so we've got Brandon Cooks. He's going to be facing a pretty decent cover corner in Steven Nelson, who's allowing only a 75.9 quarterback rating against, and has a pretty nice ranking here. A positive ranking is good. The higher the number, the better. You know, you see a Joe Hayden up here. He's one of the best cover corners of the league. He got 42, and he's given up a 61-point rating. And Malcolm Butler, you could see here, is one of the worst. This is how you can tell the matchup. Okay? The best matchup goes to Robert Woods, who should be potentially operating in the slot, with Cooper Kupp on the shelf, going up against Kendall Fuller, who's burnable. So I like Cooks for the deep play, and I'm not going to be scared of him. And here's Josh Reynolds going up against Skandrick. Good quality cornerback play. So the best matchup here, we're going to have Robert Woods in the slot, assuming he plays the slot most of this game, which we're assuming, but we don't know for sure, but we think so. With Josh Reynolds moving to the outside. But Reynolds could be put in the slot a little bit, and Reynolds is super punt. All right, before I get any further, I just want to point out, this has been an incredible week for DFS Army members. Brutus, 20K win almost. We got a 4K winner and multi-time DFS Army Wall of Famer, NFHS. So this is our basketball guys. Amazing. How about Cuckoo's 100K win? Are you serious? That happened this weekend, guys. It can really happen. DFS Army VIPs get awesome tools, amazing advice. Hello, DJ Moore. Play. Hello, Traquan Smith. We were all over them. So I want to congratulate all these big winners. Here's Miranda's Showdown win. This is the single game format. So, guys, I want to congratulate all of you on crushing these contests this weekend. Those of you that did. Everybody else, I had a pretty good weekend myself so far, and I want to keep it going tonight. All right, so let's jump back over to our research station and see what else we can figure out about this matchup. Looking at the wide receivers. Ratings, obviously great for all of them. I don't think anything super stands out. Some of these numbers will change as we find out that Watkins probably doesn't play, and I believe that Demarcus Robinson will be the primary beneficiary of that. Notice his salary level very low. That's going to be an exciting play for us. We're going to have to find some super punts, and I'll get to that as we get to the portion of this that is the Domination Station portion, which we're all waiting for. But I got to take you through all the tools first. Let's take a look at the tight ends and any sort of matchups that we need to see there. Or I will refresh this page here and jump over real quick to the Domination Station and get started on that as we try to figure this slate out. And part of the deal is we're going to look at the high-end players, of course. We're going to try to figure out who our MVPs are and then go from there. So checking out the Domination Station. This is set for Fanduel, single game. KC, this is our game, right? So this is what we're looking at. We're going to start with Fanduel. I'm really going to focus on Fanduel for this one, but Draftkings works the same way. We just have to be a little bit different with our captain choices because of the way the salary system works. So first thing I like to do is sort by total fantasy points. And this gives you an idea of who the potential MVPs should be. Highest total fantasy points for the slate projection is Todd Gurley. I already mentioned this. You have the Chiefs giving up the most fantasy points of any team to the running back position. They're ranked last in run defense. And their offense is so fucking good that if you're playing against them, your entire goal is to keep their offense off the field. So an opposing offensive coordinator is going to want to game plan around ball control with Gurley, at least early on, unless the game starts getting away, and then all bets are off. But that's how I would do it. So Todd Gurley is our number one candidate, and we're going to set a number on him. Remember, when we're setting... Oh, here we go. Before you do that, even I messed it up. You got to go to the MVP tab, all right? Not all players. We go 0. When we're trying to control MVP exposures, the first thing we do is we go to the MVP tab right there. That's the only way. And the way we control these exposures is not by locking a player. We don't do that. You set the minimum exposure on the player. If I want 35% of my 150 lineups to be Todd Gurley, I'm going to set this at 35%. Now I'm going to look through these. Mahomes, super stud quarterback, definitely can be the MVP. We want to get exposure to a few different players, so I'm going to set him at 25 for now and allow for the possibility that I might change it. I'm less enthused about Jared Goff than I am about Mahomes and Gurley. And I kind of think that if Jared Goff is going to be the top scoring player on the slate, then Gurley will not be. So I'm going to have a setup where Goff will probably only be my MVP in lineups where I don't have Todd Gurley in them. You know, I have to do a little bit of narrowing down the player pool if possible. So let's go 10% Goff in the just in case scenario. Kareem Hunt, again, doesn't set up as well in this game as a Gurley would, but it's definitely plausible that Kareem Hunt, a running back, can get your 2 touchdowns and can be the highest scoring player on the slate as well. So I want to give him some exposure. Tyreek Hill I like a little bit more than some of these other guys because he is just so explosive and he could take over a game. So let's go 15% on him. Where are we so far? 35, 60, 70, 80, 95, and let's either go a 5%er on, we can do Kelsey for now. Actually, maybe Woods. Woods showed up. So let's do that. Okay. There we go. We've got some minimum exposure set for our MVP position. Our highest one is Todd Gurley right now. Guys, I'm putting these numbers out. These are not my final. I'm just giving you examples. I want to show you how it's done. Okay, I will continue to edit this after this video is over. So let's be clear here, that, you know, this isn't a final distribution. By any stretch, we still have to find out about Sammy Watkins and some other situations. All right, let's jump over now. So we've got our MVPs controlled. Let's roll out 150 and this will give us a chance as we look at the flex positions to talk about exposures and approach. Now there are some concepts I've come up with. A little bit deeper concepts for this particular slate and slates in general where certain stacking functionality can be used on the DOM station. So I have this idea that if, for example, Tyreek Hill is the MVP, in those lineups, it's unlikely that Kelsey will also be a massively high-scoring player, because if both Hill and Kelsey score a ton of points, then chances are Mahomes will be the MVP. So if you want to really get down and dirty with this, what you might do is say, all right, rather than running this entire tool for one shot with all of these guys, we're going to run, knowing our percentages already, we're going to run each run of the MVPs individually. So on my Tyreek Hill run, I'll remove Travis Kelce from my flex player pool. In my Pat Mahomes run, I'll want to have Hunt potentially removed from my player pool because, again, if Hunt is crushing in the slate, chances are Pat Mahomes is not. Right? So we have to do little things to try to come up with if a game goes a certain way, what will win. But let's start with the broad. I don't always do that, so and sometimes you limit yourself with too many rules of that sort because you never really know what's going to happen in a short game. But let's take a look at what's happening in the flex initially. First run, you got a kicker shooting up there because his projection is really good. Let's see. We're getting a little Conley. We're getting a little Demetrius Harris in there. You got the Legatron, Demarcus Robinson, who I like probably more than what this shows. Let's go to, I believe that if Watkins is out, Demarcus Robinson's going to be a good play. Josh Reynolds, I probably like a little bit more than this is showing. We have to get these tight ends in there from the Chiefs as well. But this is how it's done. I'm going to run it, take a look at the flex and see who's popping, and then adjust. Each time I run it for the full 150 because the distribution doesn't look right until you have all of your captains in there. Like, it's going to start with all Todd Gurley lineups, and those are going to not show Todd Gurley. But if you look at the all, you'll see Todd Gurley in 61%, and Robert Woods coming up a lot, and Mahomes, and Kareem Hunt. Again, Kareem Hunt, I'll probably lower my exposure a little bit on him, just because I want some of these pass-catching studs, but I love Kareem Hunt as well. See, the tool already likes Robert Woods. We already said he's in a better matchup, but the reason we like him more is because he's cheaper by $1,000 than Brandon Cooks and has the same general projection. That's it. So I don't want too much of any one player. I'm going to control that with my max exposure setting. So let me show that real quick, how we control max exposure. I see Butker is popping a little bit more than I normally like to see for a kicker in this sort of a game. I don't mind the kickers. I love them both. Everybody's going to score a lot, but you don't want to have too much of any one guy in a game where there's so many situations that can go off. And I'm gonna talk about an advanced, super sneaky thing that I'm about to do as well. So part of the deal here is we have to look at who the super turds are, and those are your extreme punts. Demetrius Harris, Demarcus Robinson. These are the cheap guys, right? Somebody is going to go off. And I'm going to, Conley, again, with Watkins potentially out. But I'm going to add something in. In the excluded players list, okay, you have players all the way down to 4,000. Now, most of these guys aren't going to play at all. They have no chance. But if you can nail a 4K player that even does very little, a point or two, and I've done this before and won it, that creates a completely unique lineup construction that no one else did. So I'm going to put a projection on this Garrett Dieter guy. Now, some of the guys in chat mentioned Dieter as potentially, this call-up, and he can get some snaps tonight. So I'm going to put a projection on him of 1. Not because I think he's going to score a point. Again, if Watkins is out, it's possible that this guy will get some snaps. So I love to get a guy in there who has at least a chance of doing something. And if you look at some of these numbers, like, these guys might get a snap or two. Another guy, he might get a snap. He's had a snap before in his career. Let's take a look at them. But as soon as you put that projection on them, they pop into the flex player pool at the bottom, right? Now, you might be saying, you're fucking nuts, Kevin. Why are you putting a 4K player in? And the main reason is because with so many studs on this slate, using a 4K player will actually allow for an extra stud, and it's very possible that all of the 5 and 6K guys do shit, right? And allowing yourself an extra super stud in your lineup by paying all the way down, and we don't want 2 of these guys in any lineup, but generally at least 1, maybe that's the nuts play, especially if they get a couple of points, even 1.2. And I've won slates doing this. It's advanced. Most people wouldn't even think of such a thing. It only works when the player's salary is significantly below anyone who might actually play. Conceptually, it's the same idea as using like a $200 player on Draftkings. But a lot of times on Draftkings, you can actually find cheap guys. It won't work as well because you can find cheap guys on Draftkings that have a floor. All of the kickers and the defenses are so cheap on Draftkings that this sort of approach doesn't necessarily work. But it would work on Fanduel because you can't super punt down to a kicker. Like anybody with any sort of projection is coming in higher. See, the reason Reynolds isn't popping is because he's 9K. Like, it's a lot. He's not priced as a super punt. These tight ends, Everett and Higbee, for the Rams, are in play. And here's the interesting part. They're not sexy. They're not sexy at all, these 2 guys. They suck. They really suck. But let's take a look and see if anybody... See, part of what I like to do is look at the game logs and see, have they ever scored a point in the game? This guy has less than a 0, so it looks like he got a target. Now, this is the Rams. He got a target in week 1. But I'm more interested in super punts from Kansas City at the wide receiver position. So I start by looking at these points per game. This guy's not playing. These zeros just don't get any snaps for the most part. So looking at the 4K range, you have this Marcus Kemp guy. And let's take a look at his game log. Well, it looks like he had a target last week. Better than no targets. Where's that other dude? Dieter. Never had a target, but he was signed on Sunday to the 53-man roster. He's been on the practice squad. They're saying it could come with a debut, although he's unlikely to have an impact. Like, he could play. Okay. Better than a guy that's not going to play. Because I'm going for a 4K super punt, not because I think they're going to do anything, but I want the extra added potential that they might do something. So let me pop in Marcus Kemp in there as well. I know this seems like very, very menial, but this is when you see people winning these tournaments with some wacky player, you're like, how the fuck did they think of that guy? This is what you're doing, okay? I'm making 150 lineups. If 2 or 3 have these guys. Now, I just happen to believe that a 4K player introduces a unique lineup construction that no one else will have, right? So even if I don't love these guys, and I certainly don't, I'm going to set a max exposure here of 5%, and this is the other thing that I hadn't gotten into yet. You're going to control your exposures first using projections, but then using max exposure limitations. Okay, if you think that you're just going to push the button and print the money, that's not how NFL DFS works. You got to control it. And I don't want to hear anybody ever say, the optimizer gave me this. You gave yourself that. You control it. So we're going to start to look at these. You know what I'm going to do for the purpose of this video is I'm going to reduce this down to 50 so we don't have to wait, right? So we're going to look at these exposures and start to figure out, all right, where am I getting too much of a guy and where am I getting too little? A lot of people ask me, how do you know when it's too much and too little? Well, if I got 58% of Robert Woods, I know it's too much, right? What if he does shit? He kills my whole thing. So I'm going to look at Robert Woods now, and, you know, I don't want to change his projection, so let's just set him at 35% max, right? I want more Hill in my life. He's coming in at 38%, and in total, Tyreek Hill's at 52%. That's actually not too bad. Todd Gurley, total 70%. Not bad. This 62 is a little high for me. This 50% is a little high. We know that Kansas City will abandon the run if necessary. So while I love Kareem Hunt, I don't know if I want... Let's see what we got him in the flex for, 40%. So maybe I'll cover him for 30% in the flex. And we'll have 40% total because he's also... an MVP for 10% every time, right? Now, we left 5% over, and it's grabbing Woods here. Now, here are my super turds. Got a couple shares of each, 5%. I want to get a little bit more of this Gerald Everett guy. I want to get a little bit more of the other tight end, Taylor Higbee. So let's look at them. And make sure they're projected high enough to show up, at least in some lineups. We've seen Spencer Ware score a touchdown. That's part of the deal with how the Chiefs' offense works. They'll go to Ware to spell Hunt at times, and sometimes he vultures. Look at this. 10, 10, 7. Not many attempts. He gets some passing game work. Sometimes in a blowout, they'll bring him in even more. But, you know, he's not a high likelihood player, but he sometimes gets that touchdown. Now, he's a guy I'd probably avoid pairing with Hunt because he's going to vulture the Hunt share. Now, let's say you want to use the Domination Station to set up to avoid that pairing. We can do it. Hunt. With exactly 0 players of Ware. I'm figuring Ware will vulture from Hunt. So we don't want that combination together. You can set up whatever combinations you want. Like I mentioned earlier, that if I have Hill as my MVP, which we can't do here, you'd have to do a specific run for that. I probably don't want... Well, if I have Mahomes as my MVP, if I have Hill as my MVP, I probably don't want Travis Kelce in the lineup. Why? Because if Travis Kelce and Hill are both producing outsized scores, slate smashing scores, then it's going to be Pat Mahomes who scores the most points. If they're spreading the ball around, the quarterback's going to be the guy. If they're not, and it's just like all Mahomes to Hill this week, or he spreads it around and to Hunt and it's really mixed up, then those other high price guys like a Travis Kelce aren't going to show up. Instead, it should be Mahomes in the captain. So you want to think about game flow, and you want to think about which players affect each other in ways that will affect the slate. Let's run this one more time at 150, see what this distribution looks like. Another tool you can check out to really help with combinations and also with who to play and who not to play with one together is the DFS Army Correlation Matrix. This is a game-specific matrix that we put together that shows how various players correlate with one another. And if you're not using this, that's fine. You're not using the tools that you're provided, and hey, okay, your choice. But part of how this correlation matrix works is if you look at a player and you look who correlates positively and negatively with that player. So in the case of Mahomes, let's just start with this. You know, KC defense, Mahomes, not much correlation. You get a little bit of positive with some of these running backs, just random noise. Even Mahomes actually slightly positive with Kareem Hunt, which is interesting. Very positive with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, wide receivers, of course. But I'm looking for the negatives. So obviously negative correlation with opposing defense. There's some negative correlation between Mahomes and Todd Gurley. Not as intense as you would expect, but slight negative, and that's, again, because if Todd Gurley's controlling the clock, running the football, then Mahomes has the football less. Let's just scroll over and see if there's any other positives. Obviously, there's actually positive correlation between opposing quarterback and opposing wide receivers, which you see here, right? All right, that's the simple one. We'll see similar numbers for Jared Goff. If we look at Goff here, you see that he is very negatively correlated with KC defense, makes sense. Positively correlated with the opposing quarterback, also makes sense. And here's where it gets interesting. So Goff, slight negative correlation or neutral correlation with Kareem Hunt. Basically, if the Chiefs are leaning on Hunt in this game, it's not a great sign for Jared Goff. Opposing pass catchers, he's going to have some positive correlation with. That's pretty common stuff. If both teams are scoring at will, the pass catchers do better. The quarterbacks do better even when it's opposing. That's how we build our game stacks a lot of the time. Let's scroll over and see if we can find anything else interesting. Jared Goff and Legatron. Positive correlation. That's interesting. Some slight positivity with Todd Gurley. Throws to Gurley sometimes. More so with the tight ends and especially with the wide receiving core. Not much negative. It's the negatives that I'm looking for to find areas where we can really avoid. So let's see what happens with Tyreek Hill. Very positive with Pat Mahomes. Negative with Kareem Hunt, opposing running backs. Or his own running back. And this is telling. Okay, so let's stop here real quick. If Tyreek Hill is going bananas, then it's not a good thing for Kareem Hunt. That means it's like a passing game type environment for the Chiefs. They're throwing. And the Kareem is rising to the crop. I don't know what the fuck that means. If Hill is having a great game, and this is something I mentioned before, then maybe it's a Hill and not Travis Kelce. So there's some negative correlation between Hill and Travis Kelce. Other pass catchers from his same team. This is telling information. If you're trying to narrow down your pool, Hill is very positive with Mahomes, but negative with other pass catchers from his team. So if I'm setting up a distribution with Hill at my captain, I want to set it up so that it's the most positively correlated. So I probably have Pat Mahomes as a position player, as a flex, or vice versa. But with Hill, I probably would avoid. Again, I said this before looking, and now we're seeing it come to fruition on these numbers. If you have Hill as your captain, you probably don't want Kareem Hunt in the lineup. Why? Because again, if Hill is the highest scoring player on the slate, then Kareem Hunt probably didn't go off. Because if Kareem Hunt goes off, then Mahomes is going to be the highest scorer. Therefore, he should be the MVP. The one certainty we know in these tournaments is you must have the best score out of anybody. So you need all of the correlation to work for you. And this is an argument for setting up individual runs with the Dom Station with various captains as opposed to a single 150 run score. I can't do that here, but I will be doing that for two-night slate. Take too long for me to sit here and show you how to do it. But just note these things. So all of the guys that you have picked up as your captains, take a look at this chart and see where the correlations are. And try to load them up with the high correlations on both sides. And try to avoid the negatives. Okay? I hope this makes sense. I really do. We've got a few captain choices. We talk about Kareem Hunt as a captain choice. We're going to avoid loading up Kareem Hunt as a captain with his pass catchers. We have a lot of Gurley. Let's see what happens with Gurley. Obviously negative with KC defense. That just goes without saying. But Gurley, if he's doing well, it's not as great for Mahomes, but I'm seeing some big negative on Kareem Hunt. So if Gurley's doing really well at the captain, then we might want to consider not rolling with Hunt, because again, if Gurley is crushing, then then you would think that the Rams are leading and the Chiefs are throwing to keep up. That's what will happen in a Gurley crush game, right? Who's he positive? Let's look at other. Yeah, I mean, Darren Williams doesn't matter. It's just another running back. But another negative, yeah, just random noise. Gurley, though, very positive with the kicker and his team defense, which is important for DraftKings, but also just the general note of that running backs, defenses, and kickers do correlate with one another. Now, Gurley's interestingly positively correlated with Jared Goff. And again, I think that's a little odd, but Jared Goff does throw to him, but he has negative correlations with his pass catchers from his same team. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to have any of these guys, Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks, with Gurley. This negative correlation, these numbers aren't that huge. They're very small. I look for like a big number to really say, oh my God, avoid this, right? These are not that. But we're seeing little indicators that, hey, maybe we should at least control exposures with these guys as captain to some of these negatives. Like with Gurley, you might just want to say, fuck it. I don't want Hunt and Gurley together. So if Gurley's my captain, mon capitan, 0 shares of Hunt, right? But that, again, that needs to be done on an individual run with Gurley at the captain, because you can't really differentiate in the stack right now if it's for MVP or flex plays. That's something we'll get to as I'm seeing it's something that will be useful. So there you have it. You can use the correlation chart to come up with different negative stacks if you're going to run the Dom individually at MVP. How do I do an MVP originally? If you've got Gurley set to 50% and you're doing 150 lineups, rather than do it that way, set Gurley to 100% and run 75. Upload, right? You got this guy 25%, Mahomes. So instead of that, you're going to run 35 lineups with Mahomes at captain, set up your stacks specifically. So that's going to be a fun approach for people to use this week. And let's do just one final run. I want to show how you put the lineups into Fanduel. Going to run off my 150, and I'm actually going to put these lineups in because I want to reserve my spots. And that's a whole nother thing. What I like to do is set up all my distributions, reserve all my spots, and continue to edit them as we approach the slate. Editing a lineup takes about 35 seconds, or editing 150 to 300 lineups takes me about 30 seconds using the Domination Station tool. And if you don't know how to do it, please check out the tutorial on dfsarmy.com titled How to Edit Your Fanduel Lineups. It's really descriptive. All right, I just made 150 lineups. And again, this is not my final distribution. I just want to reserve my spots. I'm still waiting to find out a few different things about this slate. I love this little cheat code play that we did of putting these 4K players in some lineups. I have a feeling about it. We'll see if it comes together. But these lineups will be completely unique because no one is going to do it. Except for you guys who are watching this video. I should shut the fuck up. Nonetheless, let's go. 150 lineups down. Here we go. We got the quarter game, the $3 game, whatever the fuck it is. Upload. Choose file. Gonna grab the file. In case you didn't know how to upload lineups and set up 150 lineups in seconds. Here goes. Just like that. Now, I will edit these, so you're trying to copy whatever I just did, that distribution, good luck to you. Now, they will not be what I put in at the end. All right. Let's just do a quick run through of DraftKings while we're here. Obviously, I'm going to take this a little bit quicker. We've gone over a lot of the slate. I'll be in DFS Army chat going over this stuff, answering questions as I always am. If you're not a DFSArmy.com VIP member and you're watching this, you found it on the YouTube, sign up, DFSArmy.com. You can use the optimizer. You can learn how to be better at daily fantasy sports than you are right now. Get over the hump. That's what we do. We teach our members. This is not a lineup selling service. So people that are looking for that, there's other places to go. What we're doing is teaching you how to play like a pro on an even playing field. You saw the big wins. That's just this week. Every fucking week we do that. I love it. I love seeing our members, average Joes, guys who've been grinding it. Some of you, Brutus, my goodness. One of my favorites in my channel. Grinding for forever. Finally takes that 20K home. Makes it all worthwhile. That feeling is like nothing else. It really is. It's like nothing else. You chase it. Be careful of those of you guys after the big wins. Be careful of what I call the win tilt. Man, you want to feel that feeling again. It's like a drug. Just keep grinding the way that you do, and another one will come. All right. This is the captain mode for Draftkings. And captain mode's a little bit different. I don't have too much time in this video to get crazy with it, but captain mode is a little bit different because we have to consider salary when setting up our captains. You can't just say, all right, I'm going to take the best player. Now, I do want to take some of the best player, which is Gurley. And as we look at the projection for captain, you can see. Let's just sort them by fantasy points. This makes it self-explanatory. But if you look at not just fantasy points, but projection in a points per dollar basis, you're going to see that some of the turds get much higher points per dollar type projections. Like, look at this. How about Demarcus Robinson? If he catches a touchdown in this game, maybe he's your captain. It allows you to fit some other guys in there. What about just putting a kicker like Legatron in the captain spot? Right? It allows you to afford some other things. So you got to figure that part out. Okay? I might go, let's say, 20% Gurley. See if it can afford people. I might go 10% Mahomes. I definitely love Tyreek Hill here. I like position players more than quarterbacks on DraftKings because of all of the bonus points that they can get. They really do outscore the quarterbacks most of the time. So, not going to be super excited about running these captains in these quarterbacks in the captain spot. Fine for the flex, but not for the captain spot. We want to find some cheapies that have a chance. So, you give him 5%. You can give Josh Reynolds. He's not even cheap enough for my taste. I'd rather just, at that point, use some of these turds down here, like a Chris Conley. 5%. Who has a chance of having a big play? I don't know, Demarcus Robinson? Yeah, we'll give him a 5%er, that kind of thing. And so you want to set this total to 100%. I'm not really diving deep. I don't play as much of this strategy on DraftKings and Fanduel, though I will today. I'm going to load up. Fuck it. But I'm just not there yet. So, in our rules for DraftKings lineups, you have to set likes or dislikes or adjust exposures to two players. I'm going to give Todd Gurley a like. I'm going to give Mahomes a like because I do like these guys. And then we'll run off a few lineups. Let's just see kind of how it looks. That's how it's done. Here you got 20 lineups for your $4 contest. Your captains. Let the computer choose a few of them for me here. You've got the optimizer. You've got your position players. This won't be my distribution. I like Hill a lot. Just want to slap a love on this guy or something because I like Hill. Let's see if... Oh, when you like a player and he's not showing up initially, like, love, change the projection. Let's see if he's showing up now. Still no. I like Hill, but he don't like me. Getting any Hill? There we go. Take a big boost in his projection to get him in there. It's because he's priced very high. It's hard to pay that much more for Hill than some of these other guys, and that is what the optimizer is warning us about. And I would expect that you'll see a lot of Legatron, a lot of the kickers, a lot of these guys, so that needs to be worked. I'm definitely not going to be loading up on Chiefs defense against the Rams, so that needs to be worked, and you need to control this stuff. You see a guy popping too much, lower their projection. That doesn't help. Set a max exposure limit. Whenever I use max exposure limits, I always use tournament mode. FYI. Alright guys, this video has gotten way too long. I'm sure many of you did not make it through, but if you did, good job. This is your tutorial both on how to use our tools to set up for the showdown and also specifically for tonight's showdown. There's more to it. I can't go through everything here. We've got a lot of super punts, a lot of interesting plays. We've got to watch the Watkins news. So stay tuned. Stay in the channel and chat in our chat. Let's keep talking. Let's get this tonight like we get them every time. Or most times. Nothing is everything, but this is going to be a fun game anyway, so let's enjoy. Good luck. And again, if you are watching this and you're not DFSArmy.com VIP, sign up at DFSArmy.com. Use promo code GEEK to get 10% off. Why are you not signed up already? I guess you hate money. Some people hate money. That's fine. If you don't like DFS, don't sign up. This is for people who love doing this. And you want to be better at it. You want to learn. You want to put in the work. If you just want to line up, go on Twitter, type in lineup seller. There are people who sell them. A lot of times, they're even members of the group. To pay for the sub, probably use the Domination Station to sell you stupid lineups. And if you want to pay that guy $100 a month, makes you feel better, do it. But if you want to learn how to play, if you want to learn how to play like a pro, if you want to win big contests, that doesn't happen buying lineups on Twitter. And that will not happen clicking a button on an optimizer. You got to learn the approach. That's what we're all about. Good luck. Good luck tonight, everyone.